Hello, everyone. It's Kyle Gray here. Thank you so much for being here. I hope that you have been enjoying yourself through this free masterclass, The Art of Card Reading. It is a great pleasure to be here and to be part of the fourth installment of this complimentary masterclass. If you have never met me before, I'm hoping you've seen my videos at this point. But my name is Kyle Gray. I'm from Scotland. I am a Hay House author of 6 different books, and I'm a co-creator of 3 different Oracle decks. And I'm so grateful to be here. I have, for the last 15 years of my life, studied angels, and angels is my main topic. But in particular, I teach people how to connect with angels through Oracle cards. And I actually got my first ever Oracle deck when I was 14 years old. And ever since then, I've had this deep interest about this incredible subject, the idea that we have the capacity to open up to a higher power, a higher source, to our guides, to hear information that will support us, guide us, bring us answers, but also one of the most amazing things about cards and working with tarot and oracle cards for me is the fact that we have the capacity to help others using this incredible system. And I want to say that the fact that you are here in this moment right now, it means, first of all, you've taken steps in your own spiritual life and on your own spiritual journey to make a difference, to shift, to change, to essentially upgrade yourself, to try and make yourself a better person, or even realize that you have so much goodness inside of you. But not only that, you've also made this conscious decision that you want to be a positive force in the world, and that you, in some way you want to be of purpose, and you want to live on purpose, and you want to make a difference in other people's lives. Because one of the things that I've realized is that as soon as we pick up one of these card decks, as soon as we pick up an oracle deck or a tarot deck, first of all, maybe it's about getting our own answers. First of all, maybe it's about tuning into our own guides or tuning into our own guidance system, learning about our own angels. But somewhere along that journey, we have this feeling, I'm sure you know this feeling that you want to share all that you've learned, that feeling that you want to help other people feel as good as you have felt from using tools like this. And that's why I'm so grateful that you're here today. Because in this installment of the Art of Card Reading, I want to help you understand the sacred art of card reading. I want you to have some fundamental information and insights that will really help you start to cultivate your own energy to share readings with others, and give you information that's going to help you really start to get insightful, accurate readings from your oracle deck and from your tarot deck. And throughout tonight's masterclass, there's going to be a host of different videos, and I'll just give you a quick overview of what we're going to be talking about. The first video is going to be from me, and it's about the wisdom and personality of tarot and oracle cards. And I really go into the difference between tarot and oracles. Then we're going to be hearing from my friend Colette Barron-Reid, who I call the Queen of Oracles. And she's going to be speaking to us about how we can form a question, and a proper question. And if you're British, when you say proper, it means you really want to get the right thing. So we're going to be speaking about how we get the right question and how we get the right answer. Radley Valentine, the sparkly one, the king of sparkles, is going to be speaking to us about 1, 3 card, and other simple spreads. So how you can get answers and insights from 1 card, 3 cards, and other simplistic spreads that you can maybe do if you've not got a lot of time or you're doing a lot of readings one day. So that's going to be really exciting. Sandra Ann Taylor is going to show us how to do a multiple deck reading. Now that is super cool, and it's something that I do in my own practice. I love to use more than one oracle deck when I'm doing readings for others. Generally, when I'm traveling, though, I always pick one to come with me. Then Denise Lynn, the wise one, is going to show us how we can prepare for a trouble-free reading. And that is really essential knowledge, because if you've already started doing oracle readings or you've started to share them with others, sometimes you can hit walls and come up with some challenges. So Denise Lynn is going to show us how we can have a trouble-free reading and how we can prepare for a trouble-free reading so that we can get the best from this experience and also share the best from this experience. And I think that in itself is going to be an exciting thing. And then we'll be back with the Queen of Oracles at the end, and it's going to be Colette Baron Reid again, and she's going to speak to us about contradictory cards, cards that give us clarification, and also oracle abuse, because I don't know about you, but I know at times in my life I've came to a point where I don't really know the answer to everything, and every 2 minutes I'm pulling an oracle deck out. And so Colette is going to help us really nail it, and how we can really get the best from our oracle deck in the sense of contradictory cards, clarification, and also how we can really respect this tool, because working with oracle and working with tarot is such an exciting journey, but we also want to respect this, and we want to make sure that we are aligning ourselves and our spiritual practice with authenticity, and we want to align it with integrity. So I'm really excited that you're here, and I was just before we came on live, I was like, I think it would be really cool to pick a card from my Keepers of the Light Oracle deck for you all embarking on this journey, and to really encourage you on this journey. So we're going to thank the Keepers of the Light, which is a congregation of beings and ascended masters and angels, for revealing to us what we need to know about this journey that we are about to undertake together. Okay, I'm taking the top card. Oh, this is a good one. The card that I picked for you today is Sanat Kumara, Light Activation. It says, share your light. Your internal guidance is coming through loud and clear. Now, you see me shuffle the cards, and you've seen me, just pick the top card off it. And this is really cool, because if I move to the side for a second, Sanat Kumara's original painting is actually in my living room behind me, and I was sitting in front of it. And this is an angelic cosmic being. His name means the eternal youth, who is dedicated to helping light workers and those who want to make a difference stand in their light and allow their light to come out. So I want you to know right now, this card appearing today is an encouragement to you to recognize that you have an incredible light within you. And whenever you face darkness in your life, whether that be uncertainty or confusion or challenges, it's an opportunity for your light to shine. And you are encouraged by your angels, by your guides, by the universe, to switch on your light and to bask within it. Now is your time to shine. So, this is the reading that I picked for us tonight. And I'm so grateful and so glad to be part of this Art of Card Reading Masterclass because I know for a fact that all of the tools that we are teaching here today are going to show you how to make a difference in your own lives and maybe if you share these readings with others. And in some way, for me, that's what I call karma yoga. It's about positively making changes that will spread out like a wave of goodness. And that wave of goodness always washes back. So let's kick off the lessons tonight. And in the first video that we're going to show you today is the wisdom and personality of tarot and oracle cards with me, Kyle Gray.
Understanding the difference between tarot and oracle cards really helps us take this journey to the next level. Tarot and oracle cards are very different, however you will find patterns and symbols that move through both oracle cards and tarot. And the truth is, tarot came first. Tarot has the major arcana and the minor arcana. And the tarot also has 4 different suits and court cards, and it comes to 78 cards in total. The major arcana is 22 cards, and these cards tell the journey of the Fool as he moves his way through the deck. And it's really this journey of life and all of the ups and downs of life. And so the major arcana are the cards that kind of pinpoint major life events and major emotional and spiritual events in our lives. And it really points out where we are on our journey. The minor arcana really tells that story. And so the way I like to look at it is if you were thinking of a movie and you have the mainline characters in the story, the minor arcana kind of puts together all the other parts of the story and helps us understand all the other aspects of how the story is coming together. The minor arcana has 56 cards. It's divided into 4 suits, and those 4 suits all have a corresponding characteristic within them, and they also have characters and emotional kind of understandings of people's psyche. So the tarot has this real structure to it, and as you become aware of the tarot and dive deep into the tarot, the structure really brings together a whole picture of people, their personalities, their belief systems, how they operate under pressure, how they are when they are at their best, and also shows the kind of darker aspects of the psyche or the shadow. Oracle cards don't have a set structure because oracle cards are basically whatever author or creator's interpretation of what they feel the soul wants us to know. And so for me, oracle cards don't have a specific structure. It's generally based on who is creating them. And when I created oracle cards, I really just went with my intuition and what would feel right for me. Traditionally, with angel cards, the number has become known to be 44 or 45 oracle cards. But oracle cards can have anything from 33 cards all the way up to 55 and beyond. And so there's no specific structure to oracle cards. They are generally based on the subject, they're generally based on someone else's interpretation. But one of the things you'll find is the more understanding you develop of tarot, the deeper your understanding of oracle cards will be. And the more you delve deep into oracle cards, the more creative you'll become when it comes to interpreting tarot cards. And so I highly recommend people learn tarot cards and oracle cards simultaneously. And when I began my journey at 15 years old, I had angel cards and tarot cards, and I learned them both simultaneously. And what I've done to help me understand tarot and interpret tarot was I would take some of the keywords that I had learned from oracle cards and I actually wrote them onto the borders of the tarot cards I was using at that time. And that really helped me start to kind of tell the story, because that's the most challenging thing when it comes to learning how to read cards for others, is actually bringing together the whole story and bringing that into one massive reading. And I know for a fact that when I started reading cards, I would say this card means that and that card means that. And so Tarot has this incredible connection that runs through the whole deck, and that's because of its structure, and it'll help us understand what we're going to do next, and it'll help us understand what's missing and what is needed, and it also helps us kind of bring together the whole story as here's the main characters, here's the people in the background, here's how they feel, here's how you feel, and it kind of helps us see someone's life. And also, as we understand someone's life, we also understand their gifts and why they're here and their purpose. And so what I'll say to you is that when it comes to understanding oracle cards and when it comes to understanding tarot, bring an open mind, bring an open heart, be open to going beyond the structure, but also know that that structure is a learning modality and a learning tool, and it will support you and your growth. So simultaneously take time to learn oracle cards, take time to learn tarot cards, and see that there's actually very common themes that run through both of them. But as you understand one, you'll understand the other, and vice versa. So now that we've spoken about oracle cards and tarot cards and how they have a difference with structure, let's talk about the personality of both oracle cards and tarot cards. If you're feeling overwhelmed by the idea of learning tarot and oracles simultaneously, let's talk about how you can understand the cards, their own individual offering, and how maybe you can weave them together. But first of all, what I'll say is tarot has this hard-hitting energy. It's very honest, it's very sharp, it's very to the point. It has this capacity to show us shadow, darkness, fear. It also has this capacity to show us our greatest fears and how we can overcome them. And so many people are often overwhelmed by the tarot because it has these darker messages within it. But for me, I think these messages are generally the messages we need to hear. And this information is very important information that can help us really delve deep into ourselves and understand ourselves, and also really hone where we want to be in our life. Oracle cards are generally more positive. They generally have a more easy, accessible energy. And they're easier to understand and they're easier to read. And that's the truth. Like, they have keywords on them. They generally have imagery that's very accessible, imagery that at times can be very light and very like, here's a gentle message. And I think if you're working in certain spaces, one tool can be more applicable and accessible than the other. And for example, maybe you're working with people who are going through a hard time, and if you want to give them a reading that's uplifting, then oracle cards are generally going to be an easier option because that person's going to feel uplifted by the messages, the affirmations that are on the cards are going to maybe enrich them and help them feel good and feel like there's light at the end of the tunnel. Whereas tarot can maybe bring up a lot of the stuff that they don't want to hear right now. And so I think that tarot as a tool is very helpful, but I also think timing is very important. And if you want a reading that has substance, it's important to then go to the tarot because it's going to tell you A to Z. It's going to fill all the blanks in the middle. It's going to help you really see the whole big picture here. When it comes to me, if I was going to go for a private reading with someone, if I just wanted to be uplifted and I wanted to feel good, then I would go for an oracle card reading. If I wanted deep information, if I wanted to understand where I was causing my own blockages, where I was holding myself back, and how I could overcome them, I would go and see a tarot reader because they offer two different things. But what I'll say is when I started to learn reading oracle cards and when I started to learn the tarot, I found the tarot to be a lot more difficult. I found it to be something that was not easy for me to do, and it wasn't easy for me to share. And I also found that it wasn't always easy to speak about the positive stuff when maybe certain cards were showing up. And so to introduce tarot to my practice and when I started doing readings for others, I would actually just take the 22 major arcana out of the tarot deck I was using at that time. And at the end of doing an oracle card reading for someone, I would let them pick 3 major arcana cards. And that was maybe just bringing in more fierce messages to my readings. And then the more time and energy I spent with the tarot, the more like the tarot my oracle card readings became. And here's the truth. At one point, I had 3 years of people waiting to have a session. And one of the things that I was really known for was my truth and the fact that I was not going to beat around the bush when it came to telling people information. I wanted to tell them what needed to be heard in order for them to be their greatest self. And so when it comes to approaching cards and giving readings, I think it's so important for us to see that it's just as useful to tell someone about their light and also about their challenges, because with that light, they will overcome their challenges. And so we don't want to give someone a doom and gloom reading, but we want to give them honesty, because honesty, in my belief, is the best policy. And honesty and integrity is what's going to lead us to our greatest truth and where we need to be. So tarot and oracle cards have a structure difference, and they also have an energetic difference in the sense that oracle cards are maybe a little bit more soft and accessible. Tarot is a bit more honest and to the point. And so the way I would suggest you look at the oracle and the tarot is that the oracle cards are that friend that you can always trust, but that friend that is maybe just going to make you feel good. Whereas the tarot is that friend that will tell you what you need to hear in order for you to move forward. That's the difference.
You know, I just want to say, before we go any further, that you may notice there's a slight difference in my skin tone now than I am in that video. And that I'll tell you a little funny story. We were in California shooting that, and you know, being a real Scotsman, I never prepared and didn't realize that being in the sun for 1 hour was going to burn me. So I actually was sunburnt, and they caked me in makeup because I was bright pink. Goodness, I know. Don't tell my mum, she's watching. But anyway, there's one little thing I wanted to go back to in that video that I think will be super helpful for you. When I first started to read the tarot, I had a tarot deck that had a border around it. And because it's quite a complicated system at times, you know, learning the different suits and learning the different names and the court cards and all the different things that came along with it, I highly recommend using a deck that you can write notes on. I actually recently thought about doing it, so I bought a sticker machine because I was thinking of creating my own little oracle out of, I collect holy cards from all over the world, and I was thinking of making keywords and sticking them on. But you can do that with tarot cards as well. So having some keywords to work with can really prompt your intuition. And another great tip that I was going to say, that if you'd like to bring the energy of tarot into your readings, maybe you're more skilled with oracle decks, or you feel the oracle decks are more accessible, I recommend Radley Valentine's Angel Tarot. And if you take the 22 major arcana cards out of that, you can actually mix them into different oracle decks. And when I first started, well, not when I first started, when I was doing readings for a while, I like to use my own cards. And I also loved Radley's cards. So I took his 22 major arcanas and I put them into my own oracle deck and mixed them together, and they worked amazing together. So using the 22 major arcana cards, the 22 trump cards from a tarot deck, is a great way to introduce tarot to your oracle readings. And I also just want to go back on something that I said there. It's not that oracle cards are not honest, because they are. It's just sometimes tarot has a very cutthroat, straight to the point, here is what you need to know. And I think that's because it has the swords, and it has, you know, the fire of the wands and the robustness of the earth. And it also has the capacity to show emotions to the cups. So it is very descriptive in that sense. But it's funny because when I do readings now, I go on and in and out of using tarot or using oracle decks, and it really just depends on how I feel. And I think it is really helpful just learning both simultaneously, having that skill. I know that there's been times that I've been in the past booked to, be at parties or hotel launches or concerts and stuff where I would just take 22 major arcana cards with me, and I would be able to do amazing, insightful readings just using them. So having the capacity to work with both is a really a great skill. But if you ask me, my favorite is the oracle decks, and that's why I'm so excited about making them. So let's take this a step further. Now that we've learned about the personality of tarot and the energy of oracle cards, let's watch an amazing video from Colette Baron Reid on how we can form the proper question. And so that if we get the right question, we get the right answer.
Now let's talk about how to form the proper question to get an accurate answer. Now, I can't stand yes or no questions. I like open-ended questions because they're better because they give you more information. Then you empower your client to see more detail as well as a bigger picture. Here are some examples of poorly worded questions. How about, should I do this? Well, when the client is asking you, should I do this, they're giving their power away to you, and they're asking you to decide for them. The best way to have them reframe the question is say, what would happen, or what can I expect if I take this action? So then you have a much more open-ended story to tell, because then you're getting way more detail as opposed to, should I do this, yes or no, right? Now, what about when is this going to happen? Now, timing is the least accurate element of readings in my experience, and I've been doing this for 30 years. So the when part is never a good question because you're then responsible to give this person time. So the better way, and again, I love getting the client to repeat the question. So you say, hey, that's not really the best question that we could ask here. Let's reframe it. And then I always used to get the client to tell it back to me when I teach them how to ask a different question. So another way to be, if I continue on this path, what can I expect over the next period of time? So I like to kind of give an open-ended 2 years, say, for example, and then then you have like a really wide space, and usually the client's going to say, well, that's a long time, and then you explain to them, you know what, timing is so iffy that why don't you just give yourself a real section of time? And then usually the client's going like, okay, fine, so how about like if I continue on this path, can you confirm that this is still going to be in alignment with where I'm heading, right? So it's a different type of conversation. Same thing with what's going to happen. Well, what's going to happen? There's a million things that could happen. What's going to happen? So that also gets that sense of almost fear. So you'll notice that when clients ask questions, there's a little bit of trepidation around them. Like, can you tell me what's going to happen so that I could feel certain, so that I could get what I want, so that what's the motive behind asking what's going to happen? So a better way to get them to engage with you is to say, again, if I take this action and I stay on this course, what will be the result, or what will be the probable reality that I'm stepping into? And then again, you have a lot more leverage to tell a story to that person, and also to keep reminding the client that they are responsible and accountable for the work that they're going to do with the information that you're giving them. Remember, it's not even though they're the passive receptor, that you're giving them information, they're listening to it, etc., and they're getting to ask you questions. At the same point, they are responsible for the content that you offer them and how they deal with it. Now, does he love me? Now, listen, Jack the Ripper can love somebody, okay? So you can have all kinds of people that love somebody, and the question is not that. I mean, a lot of the times the person that would ask a question, does he love me, is already uncertain about that relationship. So a better way to frame that question is, what is the nature of my relationship with this person or with this man, and what do I need to know about pursuing this relationship with this person? But typically when somebody says, does he love me? Does he? It's usually because he's trying to run away or something. Typically, if a person knows somebody loves them, they don't ask that question. Will this be good? Well, listen, I had some serious issues for myself that now turned out to be really good that I had them. So, you know, what does that mean? Will this be good? So a better way to frame that question for the person is like, what can I expect? What will the result be for my growth? Because if you're only asking, is this going to be good for me? Well, what if having a really difficult situation is going to be good for you in the long run? Right? So what you want to be doing is giving the best objective information to the client when they ask the question so that they can determine whether or not this is something that would be beneficial. Now let's just say, and I want to frame this piece because when somebody says, will this be good, there's typically some fear around it, like, you know, is this going to be good for me? Because that's what they want to hear, it's going to be good. So if something looks very challenging, it's worth it to continue the reading until you get to what's the essence of the lesson that person is going to experience, and then you can explain it. Listen, this may seem challenging, but there's value to it. There's some benefit to this. So it may be important that that person steps into something that has more challenge. Like, it's certainly been the truth for me and for many of my clients, but I had to learn that over the years to say, you know what, hey, let's take a look at what you can expect, what's your experience going to be, how will you evolve. There's all kinds of different ways that you can reframe that question for them. Now, again, like I said, you can shift a question. It's really important that you listen to the client too, because when they ask you a question, they're asking more than the question. They're saying something to you. So the person's motive is revealed in the question that they ask you to answer. So it's really key that when you become a professional card reader, or you decide to do this with your friends even, and when you're trying it out in the beginning, that you ask yourself those questions. Like, why are they asking me this? You know, what does it feel for me as the person reading for them? You know, how am I gauging this for me to give them the answer, not what they want, because that's not your job. Our job as a reader is not to give anybody what they want. It's to give the truth to the best of our ability as we interpret it and see it, and then provide them with information. Then the other thing too is when you understand their motives, and sometimes you might even have to ask them, so why are you asking me that question? And then they can give you a little bit more information about it. Then you can then judge the type of reading that you're going to do for them, given that you understand a little bit more what was behind it. But typically you'll know within the first, I don't know, I always figured in the first 30 seconds I know why they're there. So again, always remember, help your client reword the question so they say it out loud and they hear themselves and they understand their personal accountability for their choice. Very, very important if you decide to do this.
A really insightful video from Colette Barron-Reid there. I think it's so important to get the question right. And I think Colette is so bang on when it comes to making sure that you're not asking a question that just has an answer with yes or no. One of the things that I found when I started to do readings professionally was that I wanted to make sure that I spoke about my client's whole life. And so when I do readings, I do a spread for their personality, a spread for their feelings. And then I look at their home and their family, relationships, personal relationships, romance, career purpose, and everything else in between. And I like to make sure that I cover the whole shebang. However, when I start a session, I have one question that I encourage all of my clients to use. And it's also the same question that I pose to my Oracle decks every time I go to use them. And it's just simply this: thank you, angels, for revealing to me what I need to know. And I think that was something that, you know, Colette was really bringing our awareness to there, is that our clients and those we're doing readings for always want a specific thing, but what they need might be different. So maybe you like going directly to the universe. You can say, thank you, universe, for revealing to me what I need to know. And then if I'm doing the reading for someone else and say their name is, Diane, I'd be like, thank you, angels, for revealing to Diane through me what she needs to know. So I think that's also just a really great generic question that you can go back to time and time again, opening up to what you need to know rather than what you want to know. So let's take this another step forward again. And this time we're going to be hearing from my amazing friend, Radley Valentine, who's going to show us how to do 1-card spread, 3-card spread, and also other simple spreads that we can use to get answers and share insightful readings with other people.
It's time for us to talk about a very important concept. It's called a spread. A spread is the way the cards are laid out in a pattern. Each individual position of that pattern has a meaning. The most common and simplest of spreads is a 1-card spread. Now, the way a 1-card spread would work is basically you just asking the cards, what do I need to know today? Or perhaps you have something very specific to ask, something along the lines of, should I take that job offer? In order to do a 1-card spread, you just simply shuffle in whatever way you have decided that shuffling works best for you, pull a card, and lay out the card right here. Now, this is actually funny because this is actually a card that is about career. So if I pulled this card on the question of should I take that job offer, the answer would be absolutely yes. Another very common type of spread, and one that you're likely to use a lot and see a lot if you have other people do readings for you, is a 3-card spread. So let's take that same example of should I take that job offer? Shuffle in whatever way that you have decided is the right way for you to shuffle, and then you're going to pull 3 cards. Again, you can't make this stuff up. So this is a very excellent answer to that particular question. So the first card is generally considered to be the past, and the 8 of Water is a card that talks about, I need to move on. This isn't the right place for me anymore. It's time for me to move on. Page of Earth is the present, and this is a card that talks about good news about financial matters or getting to learn something new. Finally, 9 of Earth is the future. This is a card that says taking this job means that you will be financially prepared for retirement with this particular position. See how amazing this works? So that's a 3-card spread. Another thing that's very important that seems to be a challenge for a lot of people are yes-no questions. Now, in my decks, I tend to put at least 1 card that literally says yes and 1 card that literally says no. But most decks don't have that. So here are the ways in which I go about determining a yes-no question. I don't personally consider that there are any cards in tarot that are negative. I call those cards heads-up cards. And yet, there are some cards that it's very easy to look at and feel like it's a negative answer to a question or a challenging answer to a question. And then there are other cards like that 9 of Earth that we just saw that are yippee, and so it's obviously a yes. So let's do a yes-no question. For example, that same question, should I take that new job offer? So we shuffle and we pull a card. And this is Ace of Air. Now, the Ace of Air for me would be a yes, because the Ace of Air is a card that talks about a bumpy start. It talks about things working out in the long run, but being challenging in the beginning. This is not a card that says, no, don't do it. I actually refer to this card as the speed bump card. You don't pull into a parking lot and come up to a speed bump and see it and go, oh, well, gosh darn, there's a speed bump. I guess I'll just leave the parking lot and not do my shopping. You go over the speed bump and keep moving. So this is a bumpy start, but a positive long-term result. So that's a good card. Let's see what the next card is. So the next card is 2 of Earth. I would consider 2 of Earth to be don't take this job. Because Two of Earth is a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety. It's also a card that represents having too much going on in your life. So you're probably going to be overworked in this new position if you take that job. So probably not a good decision. Another thing that's important is that people are going to ask you timing. It's going to happen. For example, someone comes in and they ask you, am I ever going to find a soulmate? And you pull, for example, Two of Water. Well, this is a card of falling in love. So, of course, they're going to find their soulmate. But the next question out of their mouth is simply going to be, well, when? So one of the things that I do is if someone asks me that question, I just go ahead and answer the when question because I know they're going to ask. So, for example, let's do that. When am I going to find my soulmate? So the card that I pulled is Knight of Air. This is the fastest moving energy in all of Tarot. Nothing moves faster than the Knight of Air. This tells me that their soulmate is coming and coming very, very soon. Now, from a specific timing answer to the question, Knights represent the number 12. The number 12. So when we're doing timing, we go within. You as the reader have to tune into your personal intuition in order to answer this question. So 12 could represent 12 weeks. It might represent 12 months. It might represent the month of December. Well, this is the fastest moving card in all of tarot. There are 5 12s in tarot. So it can't be 12 months. That's not very fast. If it's the month of November where you are when you pull this card, then it might very well be December. 12 weeks isn't very long either. And these days, it seems like time is just flying by as it goes anyway. So you would, as a reader, need to tune in and say, gosh, does it feel like 12 weeks or does it feel like December? Talking about December reminds me to tell you something. You're going to come up with your own symbolism. It's going to be specific to you and unique to you. So if someone asked me the question, when am I going to meet my soulmate? My angels might start playing jingle bells in my head. That's because I love, love, love Christmas. So I've realized over time that if the angels want me to know something about the month of December or that time of year, they'll play Christmas carols in my head. You're also going to have those kinds of things happen for you. This specific language of communication between yourself and the angels or the divine or source, whichever one you want to use, is a gift. It's something that's going to develop over time. Consider it an intimate conversation between yourself and the angels that are working with you during any particular reading.
I love Radley Valentine. He is so amazing and he is, so clever. I see him, do accurate readings all the time when we're on tour. And he's brought through so many great insights there for how you can use, spreads to gain answers and insights. So he had a similar thing at the start, what do I need to know today? I think that is really cool. One thing that really came out for me when Radley was speaking there was he was talking about timing and, learning timing. In my own life, because I was trained as a medium and I, went to psychic college and studied spiritualism for a long time, I really learned how to do timing for people. But I'd done it through the seasons. And so when I was creating my most recent oracle deck, the Angels and Ants Oracle, which I have here, I actually created cards for the seasons, winter, autumn, spring, and summer. And when I'm doing a reading for someone and say they're asking a question and the question, is this, role, or if I was to go with this role, what might it bring? For example, in a job or a career, and I give them some information or insight. And then they would say, is there any time that this might unfold? I would pull my 4 seasons out and I would invite them to pick one of the cards, and say they picked winter. That's one of the things that I created for myself. to start getting information on timing, because I think timing and being an oracle reader is a really important thing. And another thing that I like to do is I like to say, let's pick a card for each of the 6 months ahead. And so I would do the reading, and at the end, I'd pick one card for each of the 6 months ahead, and that would give information for the 6 months ahead. Now, that ahead in my mind is based on your current energy at this time, your intentions, your thoughts, and your feelings, and how they are creating your life. And so one of the things that I always recognize is the future is not set in stone. It's always changeable. But generally, when I give information on 6 months ahead, that's based upon what this person is creating with their intentions, whether they're aware of it or not. So I think it would be really helpful now to continue on our journey and to see this video from Sandra Ann Taylor. She's going to show us how to bring in another oracle deck, or why that would be helpful to us. So let's see that video from Sandra Ann Taylor now.
Sometimes it can be helpful to use more than one deck in a single reading. I don't do this often, but I find that it is advisable if you have a lengthy investigation, a long spread, or several questions to answer, especially if you think that your spread could entail more than the amount of cards in a deck. For example, there's a popular spread called the 12-house spread, and that basically follows the 12 houses of the astrological chart. And you lay out columns of cards that go with each house, 12 houses down. And then, here's the tricky part, you lay columns of cards, and this is only for tarot, by the way. Columns for cards are rows of cards next to each house, and that you can only end the column with the major arcana. So if you have to keep adding cards till you hit the major arcana, you could run out of cards easily in the first 10 houses. So you may need to have a second deck for that kind of thing. Any lengthy investigation or lengthy spread, it might be helpful to do that with. Another example where a second card might be helpful is if you want to blend the energies of two different decks. I often do this when I want to layer the energies of the energy oracle cards and the Akashic Tarot. What I do is try to shuffle them, and that can be an interesting process as well. Mostly just lay them on the table and scramble them all up. And then I start the reading in that way, and I mix them all together, not in one deck and then a separate deck, all together. And what you find when you're trying to blend the energies of two different decks is that you find corroborating information and answers from one of the decks to the other, maybe right in a row. So that's a lot of fun too, if you want to blend the energies of two very different decks and find out how one deck supports the answers of the other. Another example of where you might want to use two decks is when you need more information. Now, usually you can place more cards from the deck you're using to get more information. However, sometimes I feel it's helpful to have a second deck right there, separate and ready. And if I want to get more information, I just peel cards off of the top of that deck, which has already been shuffled. That way you get a very lengthy and deep discussion about what the meaning of different cards are. And if you're using the same deck, if you're using two of the same deck, if you get the same card twice regarding an issue, pay close attention to the message in that card, because that is a universal intention for you. Now, you can use the same process in trying to investigate the timing of things with a second deck. A second deck can be set aside, just like for more information. You can set a second deck aside and peel off some extra cards when you want to understand the timing of things. If you have a question about when a person is going to get a job or meet someone or go to school, whatever it may be, if you're doing a reading and you can't seem to quite get the answer on the timing, pull some cards and lay it on that question and keep laying it until you reach what I call a resolution card. Now, a resolution card will generally be a very positive information, upright card that indicates the positive resolution is at hand. What you do then is you count the number of cards it took to get to that resolution card. So if you use 3 cards to the resolution card, that could indicate 3 days, 3 weeks, or 3 months in terms of timing. It usually doesn't go into years, 3 years, 4 years, whatever it might be, even 1 or 2 years. The reason for that is that the energy is still in such a state of flow and flux. There are so many things that could happen that could change the result before the end of a year or 2 or 3. So these are all of the things you can use an extra deck for. It's a lot of fun. It is really an experiment. You should play with it and have fun with it and see what an extra deck can do. But really, no matter how many cards you use, whether you're making a 1-card pull about the day ahead or doing a lengthy investigation with multi-decks, the important thing is to trust your heart. Do the process with a heart-intentioned investigation. Listen to what the cards have to say for your heart. When you do this, no matter how many cards you pull, you are connecting the card information with your life and with the universe. It's like a lifeline to the universal resolution you want. So let yourself play with the cards, but always keep a sense of trust and peace in the process, and know that your connection is creating results for you.
I loved learning about doing multiple decks for lengthy readings. I've always been from the school of keep things simple, but I've also always loved having different oracle decks around me. And I wanted to show you how to make the mega deck, which is something we do in my Angel Tribe and on my Certified Angel Guide course. The mega deck is taking 2 parts of two of my oracle decks. The Keepers of the Light Oracle is a deck that is based on the Ascended Masters. And my Angel Prayers Oracle has 16 different Archangel cards within it. And whenever I feel I want an Archangel Ascended Master deck, I call it the Mega Deck. I mix the 16 Archangels from my Angel Prayers Oracle into my Keepers of the Light Oracle, and it is amazing. And I actually love it when, you have all these different colors, the yellow and the blue all mixing together. And for me, that is one of the best ways to get information from who's working with you, what the angels and the Ascended Masters want you to know in order for you to grow. And it helps you get a reading that helps you connect with the guides that are working through you, but also the archangels as well. So that's how to create a mega deck. Take the 16 archangels out of the Angel Prayers Oracle and mix it into the Keepers of the Light Oracle, and you will have a very accurate and insightful reading. Now we're going to hear from my friend Denise Lynn, who's going to teach us how to prepare for a trouble-free reading.
Now, the best way to troubleshoot is to not have troubles in the first place. to that extent, I know I said this before, but this is really important. The amount of time and energy that you take before the reading will really support it being a positive, beautiful reading, and there won't be anything to troubleshoot. Make that space feel great. You might have fresh flowers or a candle burning or some essential oils. With essential oils, be careful because some scents not everybody likes. So you might even ask the client ahead of time, is there any scent you don't like? I like to use essential oils. So that way, if they don't like lavender and you think, well, everyone likes lavender, actually not everybody likes lavender. I met a guy, he was smelling lavender and there was a bee and it stung him on the nose. It's like, I don't like lavender. So find that out. So you take the time. Sit in the chair that the client's going to sit in. Is there anything distracting? Do they have sun in their eyes? Pay a lot of attention to the space. Make sure the cards are cleared. Make sure that you've tuned into them ahead of time. Take the time to visualize that session going perfectly. Visualize greeting the client. Visualize, it's like spirit is there. You might imagine that there's angels surrounding you with wings held high, creating this beautiful dome of light. You might visualize or imagine a beautiful golden orb of light. Whatever visualization works for you. And it's important not just to visualize. Visualization is good, but visualization with feeling, better. So feel it as well as see it. And then visualize, sense that energy going and moving and flowing, the client feeling great, you feeling great. And then when the client leaves, they feel good, you feel good. You can even visualize or imagine a week later when you give them a call, just calling to check in, find out how you're doing, and getting off the call going, yes, that was awesome. The more time and energy you spend before the reading, the better the reading will go. Now, also under troubleshooting, one thing to be very conscientious about is saying negative things to the client. And you might be going, but I see something negative for them. There are many ways to tell the truth. There's many ways to tell the truth. Someone came to me and said, I had a reading. She was really distraught. I had a reading and the reader said I was going to be in a car accident. My son was going to die. Okay, how does that help anybody? Even if it's true, the instant you put that thought in that woman's head, she is more likely to be in an accident because you have impacted input. I don't know, you've dropped that thought into her. So if you happen to see something negative, find a way. Just say, you know, there's some information about transportation. The cards are saying that there's a sense that you need to be very conscientious for the next 3 days whenever you're driving the car. Just be extra alert. That is much better because you are not dropping that negative energy into their mind. You know, many years ago, I had a neighbor, and she was terrified that her son was going to fall. And when her son was a little toddler, and he'd come over to play with my little toddler, but she would say, I'm so worried, don't let him get near the stairs. I'm so worried he's going to fall. And it was like this mantra. She was worried he was going to fall. Well, one day we were over visiting, and we were on the deck of her deck, and her son fell like 8 feet head first. I don't know how he lived. I don't think I've ever prayed so hard. She screamed. I ran down. He wasn't breathing. I'm like, I called every angel, God, guardian I'd ever known to come into that child, and he was okay. But it made me realize that her fear, she had that visual image of him falling, and it's almost like she created it through that fear. So do not plant fear in your client. Over and over again, I've heard people come and tell me stories of something negative that someone told them, and then they focus on it. And if someone tells you something negative, I remember he was actually kind of a famous psychic, and he goes, oh, this coming year, you're going to get really sick. And I said, no, I'm not. He goes, oh, yes, you are. And I said, no, I am not. And you know, that year, every time I started to get a sniffle, I took every vitamin, everything I could think of, because I was sure I wanted to be right and I wanted him to be wrong. So maybe he did me a service that way. But if someone tells you something negative, you do not need to take it. The future is malleable. no matter what appears in the card. Sometimes it's just a way to divert you in a different direction. Sometimes they're reading themselves. I've had readers absolutely read themselves. I had one reader who was in Florida, and she was talking all about my son who was drug addicted, and I'm just being quiet. And at one point she goes, I'm not reading you, am I? And I said, nope. She goes, I'm reading myself. And I said, yep. She had a teenage son who was addicted. So sometimes if someone tells you something negative, it could be literally about them, or it can be symbolically something about them. So only take what feels right. Additionally, whatever you share with your client, be sure to say, only accept this if it feels right. Only take it in if it feels right. You know, card readers, we're not 100%. We're pretty darn good, but we're not 100%. So ultimately, there's a place inside of you that knows what is best for you, that knows the correct direction for you to go in. So please, I've offered you my best advice. I've offered you the best that I can tell from the reading and from the cards, but make sure that it fits with your soul.
I love Denise Lynn. She is so knowledgeable, especially about creating sacred space. And I really loved that guidance that she brought to us about sit where your client would sit and take in their surroundings to make sure it feels comfortable. I know when I was doing readings professionally, I used to see around 45 clients a week, and they would come to me physically in my office in Glasgow, and people came from all over the world, like, you know, people from Zimbabwe, people from the Middle East, people from London, you know, they would fly in to have a session. And I really took care about creating a sacred space in my office. I would have a Mother Mary statue, and I had candles on all around me. You know, I would make sure that it was clean air, it wasn't stuffy. All of these things are super important. And I think that if we have a clear space, we'll also have a clear mind and a clear heart for us to channel information. We're having so many great questions being sent in by you. Sandy Steele asked a brilliant question. They were asking if it's a good method of doing, what's a good method of doing online readings, Skype or Messenger. And, you know, one of the things I'll say is I use Zoom when I'm meeting clients now, which is a very similar system to Skype. But you can use that or FaceTime or any other messenger system where you see your client. It's a wonderful way. And whenever it comes to picking cards, you can pick them in their honor. And so I always just say a prayer, something like, thank you, angels and guides, for directing me to pick the right cards for whoever I'm reading today. So I'm one of those readers who really love to let people pick cards, Sandy. But doing online readings, I highly recommend that you see the person and have feedback in real time, because that will really help you learn from the experience and also practice your capacity to deliver a reading to someone. Another question came in from Kathy Glass. She was confused how to clean her new Oracle cards, and she's seen so many different ways. One option was taking as long as 2 weeks. And she has sage that she was given to her by an Indigenous person after ceremony, which is, you can light the smoke, blah, blah, blah. So one of the things I'll say to you is that, you know, this is this is one that I got from Radley. Whenever he feels like the cards need cleared, he just goes, he knocks them. And it's like when you knock the cards, all of the negativity, all of the challenges fall out of them. I also just say, thank you, angels, for kissing my cards and for allowing them to hold light and truth and integrity. When I'm first getting to know a card deck, I like to bless them by placing them on my heart and saying a prayer. But you can, of course, hold them over sage or incense or frankincense and imagine that the smoke is clearing the cards. But keep it simple. Whatever feels right to you is right for you. So to finish our video section of tonight, I want to go to another video from the Queen of Oracles, Colette Baron-Reid, who's going to teach us about contradictory cards and clarifier cards and how we can also avoid oracle abuse.
Now let's talk about troubleshooting. We're going to identify and discuss the biggest issues that I've seen people experience, such as not being sure how to interpret contradictory cards, which is a really good one to start talking about right now. Whenever you have contradictory cards, you have to think in your head, this and that is true. Whenever two cards are side by side that appear to have nothing in common, especially if one, the first card says, yay, everything is great, and the second card implies not so good, right? In the tarot, it could be that you've gotten the Four of Wands or the Four of Fire in my deck, which is really, it's like the marriage card, it's a celebratory card, it's like, feels so good, it's like, oh, you're at home. And the other card would be, let's say, the Ten of Swords in the traditional tarot, or the Ten of Air. So it's like, wow, that one, how can these two things be true? One appears to be fantastic, and the other one appears that, oh my gosh, I'm going through something, and it's like the nadir, or the lowest point. So life is complex, and you have to make sure that the client understands that you're not looking at a one-dimensional or a two-dimensional map of their life or their story. You're looking at multiple layers of what could be going on. So, for example, while everything feels very hunky-dory here, there's some grief or some unprocessed stuff that needs to be worked through at the same time. Like, people are complex, so never panic when you get contradictory cards. All that tells you is that you're dealing with a more complex issue than you thought before, and you want to slow down and start paying attention to, and even have a conversation with the client. Say, you know, these things are seemingly contradictory, but, you know, you could be feeling this here, but at the same time, this is going on. Does that make sense to you? And they will always say back to you, yeah, as a matter of fact, that's what my mom's going through right now, and it's weighing heavy on me. So you know at that point, too, and certainly it'll come up if you don't want to deal with it right in the beginning of the reading because you want to just deliver all the content to the client and then talk to them. This is the way I did it for a long time. Or if you want to be more conversational, which is the way I teach it now. But again, it'll feel right for you as you get used to being an oracle card reader, or sorry, card reader in general, and find your way with the best delivery that works for you. So now if you don't understand a card, that's the other one. You have to pick another one. Why wouldn't you pick another one? Like, I don't get what this means. So you want to pick another card, which I call a clarifier card. Or you can ask another question using the card in question as the significant to her. And I do that a lot. You'll find, certainly for reading for other people, it's not going to be as much. I've never had to do that often with other people. I have had to do that when I'm reading for my husband because I have a bias about him. I know him too well. I have an expectation about what I think is already going on. I'm more constricted when I know the person really well. So you will, if you're starting to read for other people and you're using your family and friends that you know really well as your guinea pigs, then you got to keep that in mind as well too. So you might end up asking more clarifier cards because you keep thinking it should be a certain way, and then it goes like the card doesn't match the story that you already know. So pay attention to that when you're starting out learning about how to work with other people or with card reading. You're going to run into that, and that's something that I don't know how many people tell you about that, but you should pay attention to that. So always tell the truth that you're unsure, like, ooh, this is something interesting. Let's ask another question, or let's go further into this. Now, sometimes you have to tell the client that the elements are not in place, and that is true. Sometimes you can't get a good fix on what's coming up in the narrative because too many things are in motion to land on any good point of vantage to be actually accurate. So I'll find out, sometimes somebody will say to me, okay, so where do you see this going? Like, you know, what direction am I heading in? And I'm saying, you know what, I see a fork in the road. So there's not enough, the elements aren't in place right now to understand which direction you should pick. So my advice to you is what I would say is like really just slow down and pay attention to the signs and you'll get the right feeling. But right now, there's too many things that are still in flux. And that typically happens, by the way, in a reading that you do with people who go to too many readings because they're already fixated on something and that story is in motion, and you may not know that they've been to a bunch of readings, but that will affect, the fact that a client has been to too many readings will affect your ability to read for them. Whether you know it or not, the reading is not going to be as clear or accurate because they have influenced their agitation or neurosis or need it becomes quite addictive, and you become a codependent in that addiction. Now, I wasn't planning on talking about that right now, but that is a way you have to troubleshoot. You've got to feel that out, and you always will know, because you're going to feel a little, I don't understand why I'm not getting a handle on this. It's because it may be that the client themselves are all over the map, or they're so fixated on an outcome that they can't hear you. That's the other thing. They can't hear the possibilities of something else. So that's a way that you might end up dealing with something, and then at that point, when you're feeling that, saying, you know that the reading is over, right? That's when you conclude the reading, and you find a way how to sew it up and say, yeah, you know what, this is as best as I can do today. Let's book another session, or come back in 6 months, or something like that, because you will run into that too. And it's okay at that point to ask the client. That's how I found out about this, because I've read like over 50,000 people now as a card reader. Like, how many readings did you get? That's why I coined the phrase oracle abuse. Because if somebody has gone to too many readings and they've come to you, and you're the 7th card reader that they've talked to, and they are fixated on finding something out, and it's typically going to be about, am I going to get what I want, or is the guy going to leave his wife, or is whatever the attachment that you have to the outcome becomes the driving force, and the attachment you can't read an attachment. So once they say to you, yeah, I went to I just went to somebody last week, and I want to see if you say the same thing, and you're going, oh, how many other, and you'll find out they've been 10 times. It's like, bye-bye. I have a friend, I stopped reading because she goes to so many people. I'm like, I'm never going to read for you because you go to too many people. So that's a big piece of troubleshooting too, is to recognize that, you're also dealing with the, how clear and open and less attached to an outcome. Now, the other piece is dealing with the attachment to the outcome. So you want to troubleshoot that too by speaking to that. So, it's okay when you feel that from somebody, and lots of us are, and you say, hey, listen, can you be open to the form being different than what you expect? And you get that in the person's head. Remember, the active observation changes that which is being observed. So as soon as you get them thinking differently, well, the cards are going to change. Why? Because their point of vantage will be different. The energy that they bring to the reading will be different, and now you have an open, clear, because you've cleared the air, and you said, okay, let's talk about this first before I do the reading. So you'll get the hang of it, and again, practice, 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 more practice, and just some more practice.
A really insightful video from Colette Barrett-Reid, and I think she was touching on the fact that we can also, with this work, change lives. Now for the best part of the lesson. I'm really excited now to bring on Reid Tracy, the CEO of Hay House. Reid has been working with Oracle card readers for decades, and he has so many insightful pieces of information that will support you, especially when it comes to maybe stepping into business and sharing card readings professionally. So I'm very excited now to bring on the CEO of Hay House, Reid Tracy.
Hey Kyle, how you doing, man? Hey, I have a question for you. You're pretty young, but you started doing these card readings and things at a really young age. And how have the cards affected you in your life? How did you kind of get started in all this, and what effect have the cards had on you and your life?
I first started doing readings very early on. I was 15 years old when I was given my first ever Hay House Oracle deck. And, instantly I just felt this interest and excitement, the fact that I could get information from a higher source. And, it was only within about a year and a half before people would start calling up my mum's house asking if I could do a reading for them. It started with me bringing them to school every day, and I made agreements with certain teachers that I wouldn't have to do exercise class if I would do their cards. and then it went on to, me practicing on all of my friends' mums and dads. And then word got out really quickly that I was very accurate using these cards. And, by the age of 17, I was given a government-funded grant to start my own business as a professional Oracle card reader. So they have changed my life. They are the foundational skill that I developed to creating a spiritual business. And now, you know, 15 years on, I've got, you know, 4 people who work in my company, and, you know, I've traveled all around the world, and it all started with using angel cards, which is unbelievable.
Yeah,
Amazing.
it is. It's amazing. I mean, now you're one of the most, you know, popular and famous angel card readers in the world, and it just started. I'm sure you got the deck and did readings for yourself and tried to figure some things out, and then you started helping other people, and I even bet, like, I don't know if you guys all noticed, but there's a learn more button like down below us here, and we created a whole course. Like, it's a 30-hour course. There's 7 sections of the course, and it's to help you get started with the oracle cards anywhere you are in your process. Like, if you just want to figure out what an oracle card is and how to do a reading for yourself and a family member, if you want to get better at intuition, if you want to learn about tarot, we have a whole thing about that. But we have 6 of the best oracle card teachers in the world. One of them is Kyle. You've been watching these lessons, these free master classes, and you've gotten about 8 hours of information. So you've got a whole bunch of information to start with, but we wanted to even give you more. And we took that 30 hours of information and broke it into little bite-sized pieces, like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. We have alternate points of view from Kyle and Denise Lynn and Colette and Sharon and Sandy, like all the different people that you've been watching in this master class, and the little video clips give you a little idea of what the course is about, because all those clips are actually from the course itself. But I know that the whole group of the teachers had a fun time making the course. Anyone that wants to take their whole oracle card reading and just incorporate it more in your own life, or really learn how to connect with the cards, how to pick the deck that's right for you, this course is perfect for you. Like, it tells you everything from the beginning to the advanced and how to make a business with doing it. So just click the Learn More button. There's a whole page that tells you everything that's in the course, and we're going to have it. Right now, we have it for a low price. This is going to be our one-time only introductory price at this amount. So if you do have an interest in this, I would highly recommend that you get it before the time is up. If you have any indication at all that this might be for you, then I would highly recommend that you take advantage of this introductory offer. This is like the first and only time you're going to see it at these prices, because 30 hours. I know my daughter goes to college. She goes to Baylor University in Texas. And for me to pay for her to get 30 hours of education is like $3,000 or $4,000. So I'm telling you right now, you're getting a bargain of the century, and especially from these amazing teachers. Like, we just didn't find anyone, but we got the very, very, very best oracle card, tarot card, intuitive teachers we could find, angel cards, every kind of cards we have it covered. But truly, these are the best teachers that there are. So I don't know if you've had a chance to even look at the whole course, Kyle, but there's amazing parts of it in there.
You know, I was saying to my mum about it, I was like, I wish this course existed when I first started learning oracle cards, because at the time there wasn't resources. The internet wasn't as powerful as it is today. So I actually said, I wish this was available when I first started, because it really gives fundamental skills, like everything from, you know, like just learning the basics of how to shuffle properly, which can really make a difference, you know, when you start to work with people professionally. And then, you know, continuing on to really show people how to, you know, give insightful readings and merge that with intuition. This is the course that really brings all of those skills together.
Yeah, I was talking to one of our teammates or people here at Hay House, and I was saying, like, look, this is like a no-brainer. Like, just learning how to do a reading for someone else, you can if you charge $10 and give 20 readings, you paid for the course. If you charge $20 and give 10 readings, you paid for the course. Even when you're just starting out, you can charge $10. So once you get started. Also, one of the things that we did in this course is we added bonuses so that you could even learn to use the card reading with other parts of your business. That's one of the bonuses. We even have a bonus to teach you how to make a career in intuition, coaching, or healing, which actually has nothing to do with card reading, but we know a lot of you intuitive, healing kind of people are attracted to, empathetic people are attracted to the cards, and we wanted to help you with that. But this is probably the most complete course that we've done at Hay House in this subject for sure. We have a lot of specific courses, like we have a course with Kyle, and we have a course with Denise, and we have other specific courses, but this is like a comprehensive, take everything and put it in one place to get you really started in the whole card reading world. So no matter if you've been doing readings for playing with the cards or working with the cards for the past 5 years, this course has something for you. If this is the first time you've ever even heard of oracle cards or tarot cards or angel cards, this course has something for you. So hit the learn more button down below, and it'll teach you even more about the course. It'll tell you about the bonuses. It'll tell you about everything. And again, this is the price of this course. It's never ever going to be less than this. It's definitely going to be going up. We don't do, usually about a 4 or 5 hour course is $199. This one's 30 hours, so it's cost like almost nothing per hour.
So I charge more. I charge more for a session.
Yeah, right. 30 minutes with Kyle costs more than $199. So you can get a lot out, and you can. And the other thing about this is, if we update it, you're going to get all those for free. If we ever add another teacher to it, you'll get that for free. So you don't have to worry about missing out anything by getting it today. So and there's also, we're going to have 2 live webinars for anyone who signs up by the end of the month as well. So you can ask people questions and get even more live insight to help you along your path. So I know we made a special offer to a bunch of people who had bought other courses from us. So we already have like 600 or 700 people that have bought the course just because they knew how much, stuff was in there and how much it was going to be able to help them. So I know, Kyle, that you have a whole bunch of other questions that people are asking you from this webinar, so I'm going to let you answer some of those. I just wanted to pop in, tell people, what a great value this is. I really want to encourage any of you that want to make card reading a business or are interested in card reading. I think it's super helpful for people to have readings done for them. It helps them look differently at things. So you're providing a service for people. Kyle can tell you he's done many, many readings. He's seen incredible results he's had by helping people just connect and understand where they are in their lives. And it's actually easier to give readings for other people, especially people you don't know, than doing even readings for yourself. Sure. So, because when you give the reading for yourself, you're connected to the outcome. You know what you want. You kind of see what's there. It's harder to be objective and really tune into your intuition. So, good luck to all of you. I hope you enjoy the course. For those of you that get it. For any of you that are watching that missed the first 3 parts of this masterclass, those will still be available We'll have all 4 parts available until the end of the month. And we're also going to put these master classes that we've just done, the live ones, into the course as an additional bonus that we didn't think of. Like someone asked that for a question, hey, if I buy the course, can I have this master class? Because it's been so good and I've learned so much over the last 4 lessons. Literally, this master class is worth $199, so let alone the other parts of it. So we're going to add that in as well. So everything that you've heard Kyle talk about today will be in the class as well. So we're trying to do our best to give you everything you need to get started in your card reading, either for yourself or others. So I'm going to leave it to Kyle to answer some of your questions that came up today. Great seeing you, Kyle.
Take care, Reid. Thank you. So everyone, there's the big news, the big reveal that we have created an amazing interactive course that really allows you to become a certified card reader. And, I was just saying, when I first started doing this, I really wished that this was the course that I had. And I'll just say that some of the parts that I'm part of, there's a conversation that I have with Reid as part of the course, and it's actually me speaking about how I actually developed my whole business and how I created a really, sustainable income from very, very early on in my life. And I just wanted to talk about that before I go through some of the questions that you were sent. Is sometimes a lot of people have concerns when it comes to doing oracle card readings or tarot card readings and exchanging money. And when I first started doing this, I actually just welcomed donations, and that was just for me just to get into it. And then when I realized that when people were giving a donation or exchanging money or exchanging something for a session, the reading was always much more insightful, much more accurate, and I also received a lot more. And I think it's when you put value in something, you get more value from it. And I think there's just some sort of karmic law there. So when I started to do readings professionally, when people would pay for the session, I noticed that I would be more on it and more professional and more insightful, and I would bring through accurate information from them. And I started doing angel parties, I called them, when I was just 16 years old, and I would go to people's houses and do 4 angel card readings in a night, and they would all give me some money for that. And it really was so exciting to me, because they felt that they were getting value from what I was giving them, and I was earning from doing something that I really loved. And of course, that created the foundation of my business today. And now, Hay House author of 6 books and 3 oracle decks and 2 training courses, all based on this stuff. So it's amazing, and I'm so glad that you are ready to kind of take this out to the world. So I'm just going to go through some of the questions that we've received. This is a question from Sandy. She said, does it matter what room or space you use the cards in, as long as they have been cleansed, or is it better to use them at the same table or a place in your home? Sandy, I take my cards with me when I'm on the move, especially when I'm traveling. So I'm going to Germany this weekend, where I'll be teaching angel workshops, and I'll make sure my oracle cards are in my carry-on luggage. And usually when I'm on flights and I'm looking for inspiration, I'll pick my daily oracle cards when I'm on a flight. I've actually one time sat beside a lady on a flight who pulled out her tarot deck and started giving herself a reading on her fold down table, and she had no clue that this is what I was doing for a living. So you can create sacred spaces anywhere you go. It doesn't have to be in one set space. But I also have found that, taking some time and care into creating a sacred space or creating a positive environment can be really influential. But that doesn't mean that you're not going to get an insightful reading in a coffee shop with your friends if you're, grabbing a coffee or catching up. You can bring your angel cards or your oracle cards with you and do insightful readings. So it doesn't have to be one set space, but I've always found that if we're in a clearer space in our mind, we also get a clearer reading. Question from Michelle. She says about upside down cards or reverse cards. Do you put some reverse cards in purposely when you first get the cards, or do you let them go upside down on their own? I think this is a great question. The way I read reverse cards is if a card shows up reversed in a reading. So first of all, I never reverse the cards, but often when a client, I'm just going to show you, often when a client is picking cards, they might place them in a pile, and then sometimes they'll turn the card round and place it into the pile, and they'll not realize they're doing that. And it means that when I actually come to do the reading, sometimes I'll see, one angel like this and another angel reversed. I think my headphones just ran out of battery. So often one will show up reversed. And whenever a card comes out reversed, it's often, for me, a card that the angels or the universe really wants to bring to our awareness and our attention. It's a card that they are really screaming at us or really wanting to come to our attention. So for me, I don't reverse the meaning. I actually use this as a card that really requires our attention. So if you're getting a card and it comes out upside down, sometimes that happens, by fluke, or sometimes that happens. Some readers like to shuffle their cards and then turn some of the deck upside down. But I just like to keep them all most of the time upright. And then when the cards are coming out on the table, if one jumps out, or if cards come out upside down, it's because the universe really wants us to take some extra care and attention over these cards, because there is information that is very important being brought to our awareness. This is a question from Kim. She asks, any thoughts on how to handle or what to say to people who have a difficult time believing that you can hear and talk with angels if they think it's woo-woo, for example? What do you say to make what do you say to make what you do legitimate? You know what? One of the things that I have always found is I never get myself in a situation where I feel the need that I have to prove myself to someone else. And that at times can come from clients too. I never felt like I needed to prove what I do, because I love what I do and I believe in what I do. And that's the most important thing that matters. So often people want their family to approve what they do or to kind of get what they do, but often that's not always easy. So I recommend not opening up a conversation with someone that's going to question your belief system or question your practice. And I think often if you're doing this professionally, your reputation will speak for itself. Often you might have a situation where you have a client that's, maybe not taking what you do seriously, but often the reading speaks for itself as well. And usually whenever I've had a client that's skeptical of what I do, once the reading is finished, they're generally not as skeptic. So I would say don't get into conversations if someone is questioning your abilities or capacity. I feel like now I'm in a position where my reputation speaks for itself. I've got hundreds of thousands. I've got hundreds of thousands of followers, but thousands upon thousands of clients that can vouch for the fact that what I do is important to me and that I'm very good at what I do. And I think that's something that comes over time. But the one thing I always say to people is, instead of asking for people to approve what you're doing, approve yourself. And when you approve yourself, well, then the rest is history. Because then you don't feel the need for someone else's, permission to be as powerful as you are. So there we are. Tammy, She says, how do you get past the fear of receiving messages for yourself and others? I find myself pulling back when I get confirmation of spirit interactions with me. Also, thank you for everyone at Hay House involved in assisting our progress with card reading. What a great question, Tammy. You know, one of the things that I'll say is, when I first started this work, when I first started learning how to communicate with spirit and angels, I realized that I always had this inner doubt that rose up inside of me. But that inner doubt wasn't always badness. When it comes to receiving messages, I always have nerves, and I believe that the nerves are just really showing how much you care about it. But the next thing I wanted to share was, whenever it comes to receiving messages and the fear of receiving messages, often it's because there's a part of you that does not feel worthy of receiving those messages. So if this is something that's rising up inside of you, Tammy, it's really a question of your own self-worth and taking time to really work on seeing yourself as worthy of receiving divine messages and receiving information from your angels, from your guides, from the universe. And, you know, one of the things I'll say to you is that I really have this strong belief that we are, you know, beings of spirit. You know, we all have a soul, we all have a spirit inside of us. And so therefore, as we are a soul and as we are spirit, we have the capacity to hear it, because that is our truth. That is who we are. And I think for you, Tammy, it's really just about taking some time to realize that you, at your core, are spirit. And you as a being, because you, at your core, you are spirit, you can hear spirit. So that's a really important piece of information for you. So that's that. One thing I'll say to you is, if you are feeling that same fear, just say thank you, universe, for reminding me of my infinite worth. Okay, let's see what other questions. Charisse Marie says, much love to you, Kyle, and many thanks to Hay House for this amazing webinar. I love the angels and ancestors cards. Do you say a special invocation before a reading? Like I said earlier on, one of my favorite ways to start a reading is, first of all, just thank the angels for drawing close and for being close with me. And then I'll just say thank you, angels, for revealing to me what I need to know. Keeping it simple is the best way for me, and then I'll go for the reading. So when I'm doing readings, I've always found that they are always more clear and much more on point if I've spent some time in reflection before them. So maybe taking a 5-minute meditation, or even longer, just taking some time to reflect and just kind of really see how I really feel and connect with how I feel, and say some prayers. I find that that's always helpful. Sally says, when I read the cards, I didn't look to see what direction they would lay out for a card spread. They were all upside down. What meaning should I give them? Should I make sure in future to make sure they are all the right side up? I think that's really down to the school of thought that you're following, Sally, and really just kind of how you want to do your readings. I like to make sure that all my cards are upright before I do a reading, and it just seems to be easy because the backgrounds and all of the decks that I've created and used all have a way of determining if something is upright or upside down. I like to do it like that, and then if all the cards come out upside down, or if any cards come out upside down, it's cards that need extra attention. However, if you found all of your cards came out upside down, it's maybe the universe is really wanting you to really pay attention to all of the cards that came out and all of the information that came up in those readings, in that reading, because it's information that's insightful and supportive to you on your journey. Andrea says, hi, I have a question. In tarot, do you recommend learning general meaning of every card, upright and reversed, and go intuitively from there?
because I've also seen some people attribute different and specific meanings to each card depending on the topic of the reading, be it health, relationships, career. You know, it's a great question, Andrea. When I was learning tarot, like I said earlier on in the webinar, I wrote keywords around the borders of the tarot cards that I was using at the time. And then the keyword I just brought into context for whatever situation I would be looking at. So for example, maybe I got the Magician card, and the Magician card traditionally is a card of new beginnings, but it's also a card about harnessing your power, and it's also about creation, bringing the energy of heaven to earth. And so for me, that card, the keywords would be, you know, magic, new beginnings, power. And so, for example, maybe I was doing a reading for someone, and we were looking at their career, and the card came out in the future position of the reading. The Magician card coming up for them could represent that there's a change on its way, and an opportunity for this person to step into a space or an opportunity that will bring them more power in their life. If the card came up in the heart of a relationship reading, it could be representative of this relationship going through a change of direction or a change of power, in order for it to grow and to become more solid. So I would say that learning a general idea of what each card means is really helpful, and then your skill as a reader is to be able to bring that into perspective and into context of the reading that you are doing at that time. This is a question from Nick in Australia. Thanks for your time today. Question about what the cards are telling me. At the moment, I'm drawn to using a 3-card spread. I've been altering between collects, different positions of 1, what do I need to know about the situation? What's in motion now? And how do I stay in alignment? And then I watched your Facebook Live with your 3-card spread, which is Strength, Heart, Challenge. When I do a reading, do I need to tell the universe which one I am using before I shuffle, or can I wait until I draw the cards? At the moment I draw the cards, it comes into my head what's position I'm supposed to read and which way. I think if you're getting that information intuitively that you have to read it a specific way, then that's perfect for you. When I'm doing readings, I always like to have a clear intention of what I want to see from a spread before I pick cards. So, for example, say I'm doing a mini reading at an angel party, and someone is coming in and we've only got 10 minutes together. I would do a 3-card spread for Strength, Heart, and Challenge. And I would shuffle the cards with the intention that I'm doing a Strength, Heart, Challenge card reading today. And that's what I would read, and that's what the information I will receive. So I think having a clear intention of what you want to read is always much more effective when you're doing a reading. But if you're receiving intuitive guidance, it's a little bit different. But not everyone hears right away. That comes in time. I think using cards and oracle readings and tarot is an amazing springboard that really opens us up. So I'm going to finish with this question here from Liz. And it says, hi, Kyle, just purchased your Keepers of the Light Oracle, and I love it. I've been reading oracles for about 2 years, and I'm starting now to learn the tarot. I like your idea of introducing the cards with the oracle reading. My question is, I prefer that my clients don't ask their questions out loud. What do you think about that? I feel it keeps my ego out of the reading. You know, when I do a reading for someone, especially if because I work on a psychic, mediumistic, and angelic level, so sometimes I pick up energy from them, deceased relatives, and also sometimes our angel guides. And so I actually invite my client to think about and feel some of the things that they'd like me to speak about or work on or mention in the reading. And then I will do the card spread. So that's a perfect way. I actually prefer people not to ask questions until about
if I was doing a 1 hour reading, about 45 minutes in, I'd finish with questions, because my goal is to answer all of their questions before they ask me. So I think that is a brilliant way to do it, Liz. But sometimes it takes a while to build up to that level of confidence and trust. So it's really important, everyone, to take your time and do it in a way that feels authentic and exciting for you. I want to just take a moment now to thank everyone for coming here and for being part of this live webinar. And as Reid said earlier on, below this video, you can click Learn More to learn about the Certified Card Reader course. I'm so glad that you're here. I want to thank you for being such an amazing audience and for taking in all of the information that all of the experts have shared with you. And my prayer is that all that you have learned today will enrich your life, enrich the lives of those you love, and enrich the lives of all those you meet upon your journey as an oracle and tarot card reader. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Kyle Gray. It was a pleasure to connect with you. Have a beautiful day or evening or morning or wherever you are in the world. Bye-bye.